Hey, all you Minties, this is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, and join me today for my overview of the Books of Magic Omnibus Volume 2 from DC Comics, so stay tuned. And welcome back, everybody. So here we have the Books of Magic Omnibus Volume 2. This is part of the Sandman universe, classics. So it's not the modern Sandman universe. I know it gets a little bit confusing when you have the exact same titles that were coming out a couple of years ago from the new Sandman universe. But these are the classics. These are the ones that were originally coming out in the 90s. But these were the ones that were originally spinning out of the Sandman universe, the classic Sandman. So here we have the cover by Michael Kaluta. It's a beautiful cover. I think this is from issue number 71. And it is part of the DC Black Label line, although these stories were originally published in DC Vertigo. Here is what this big spine looks like, and that is a big spine right there. Books of Magic, Omnibus, Peter Gross, John A. Ryber, Sherilyn Van Valkenburg, and Volume 2. And then the DC logo there. Then we have other Tim up here. And then it's a picture of Tim and Molly back here. The book retails for $150. This is what tells you what's collected in here, which we'll go over in a little bit. But the first thing I want to do is look at the differences between the two books. And here's something to keep in mind, is that this book has right at around 1,500, I think it was 1,504 pages, whereas this one here only has 1,488. I say only like it's no big deal, but this one has a little bit more. However, Volume 2 seems like it's a little bit thicker, just from my angle that I'm looking at it, and just from looking at both of the books. And that could be because of the build of it. It's a slight bit thicker on the spine. I do love this uniform look. You have a picture up there, the title of the book, Omnibus, the creators, Volume 1, Volume 2, and a DC logo. Love when they keep like that. Unlike Green Arrow, which suffered from, hey, we're going to do our own thing in Volume 2. And then the backs of the books. Both of them, again, retailing for $150. Underneath the dust jackets, you have some newer artwork here. You have some more artwork. The Books of Magic there. Spine. And this particular spine. And then the back of the book. Hey, that's a familiar looking character. So under the dust jacket of Volume 2 is this connecting image right here. Now, let's go ahead, get this book open, check out the artwork, talk a little bit about the stories. And a lot of the stuff in here has never been collected in any kind of format before. So this was exciting, and it was my first time reading a lot of this stuff. So let's do that. All right, let's get this volume opened. Here's what your end paper looks like. Books of Magic Omnibus Volume 2. Again, the Books of Magic Omnibus Volume 2. And then some of the credits for the collection cover artist and who the creators were of Timothy Hunter. And then featuring characters created by Neil Gaiman, Sam Keith, and Mike Dringenberg. Table of contents. So here you have the page numbers and the stories. And who did the covers? I like that. I like the fact that they added the covers to the issues. And then you have a forward. You have a forward here from the original co-creator of some of these characters and some of the stories in here, John A. Ryber. When it's almost like saying revisiting the characters and saying goodbye again, because he left with issue number 50. And then you have Peter Gross, who was the artist at the time, but then they gave him, the editors decided to give him writing duties, and at first he didn't want to take it. So this was a really interesting forward when he's talking about, like, I didn't want to write the character. So it's interesting getting to read these for the first time. And I'll be honest, I didn't read the whole book. I just read the Peter Gross stories because I had read the previous 50 issues in trade paperback format. They were released in trades, but I think Volume 7 was the last one. So they never collected any of the Peter Gross stuff. So this is my first time reading it, and Peter Gross took it all the way to the end. So this collects Books of Magic 33 through 75, the 3 annuals, 1, 2, and 3, Books of Magic, the Books of Fairy, it's what it was called, the 3-issue miniseries, Vertigo Winter's Edge, 1, 2, and 3, Hellblazer Books of Magic, that's another series I never read, 1 and 2, and Books of Fairy Molly's story 1 through 4. And you also have some of the Vertigo Secret Files Hellblazer in here. So, Molly, what an important character she is towards the ending of Ryber's run. So much so that you start to forget about Tim Hunter. So this is the story of Timothy Hunter and how he is destined to become the most powerful magician. However, he's kind of sworn it all off, and during the beginning of this run, which takes immediately right after Volume 1, he's going through America. He's left England and he's in America now. Whereas Molly is trying to figure out how to deal with these fair folk from the world of fairy. And that is a really interesting story, especially the way that I remember it wrapping up. And it's less and less about Tim, which I find really interesting because once reading the forward and once you read the afterword by Ryber, you get the notion that maybe he wasn't the biggest fan of Tim Hunter. He kind of got annoyed by him, which is probably why he focused more on Molly. But I do have an overall thought of this particular run. I'll get to that here in a little bit. But here's some of the beautiful covers here from the Books of Fairy. This is the mini-series right here. And like I said, Ryber's final run was more about focusing on Molly and the fair folk. And in a way, it was like his goodbye to that particular character. Because unfortunately, because of Titania, the queen of the fairy, something happens to Molly where she can't interact with Tim or the human world, as a matter of fact. There are some twists and turns as far as the world of fairy, though. The more you read about it, the more you get to find out exactly what is happening, and it's not what you think it is. And there's some returning characters from the world of Sandman that appear through those particular stories. Peter Gross supplying a lot of the artwork, of course, but then you get some fill-in artists. Mark Buckingham helping out from time to time. Charles Vess starts providing a lot of the covers eventually. And then by the time you get to the finale of Ryber's run, you get introduced to this other Tim. This multiverse Tim. It's interesting that a lot of things are playing into the multiverse when it's always been there. So it's a Tim that's trying to find the real Tim that has sworn off his magic, to absorb his magic and kill him and become the only Tim. Kind of like Highlander in a way. But that's what Peter Gross focuses on. Kind of writes off a lot of the other supporting cast members and focuses more on Tim and his dealings with that particular other Tim character. And in a way, he kind of gets to write Molly off that way too, like where she can't be used, because there was in the forward, you get to find out that Ryber did not want the next writer, whoever he or she may be, after he leaves the book, not wanting to, he didn't want them to utilize or use the character of Molly because she means so much to him. And the story of this other Tim is pretty dark, especially some of the things that happens to poor our Tim Hunter, his family, and like his school. It's like, actually the first story arc is all about Tim settling into the Bardsley School, and then meeting this character known as Thomas Curie. And Thomas has a secret of his own, and kind of becomes his magic tutor. There are a lot of... I know you're going to compare this to another famous magician boy and tutors and twists and turns. I will say it's a lot darker than that. So this does have some mature themes, not just for violence, but also nudity and other things. So I do want to stress that this is not Harry Potter. It's a lot darker than that. And honestly, I enjoyed this a lot. Okay, I did want to state one more thing, and I promise that's it, without going into spoilers. But there is this amazing war between heaven and hell. And Tim's caught in the middle of it. Because they want they want his magic that he has let go into the world. That's what the big fight is about. So there's more twists and turns in that particular story too. I promise that's the last thing I'll say without going into spoilers, but I thought that was a really cool concept and a story idea. Now, there are other story arcs in here that I can't dive into because it is a big spoiler what ends up happening to Tim and the resolution with the other Tim and who Thomas Curie really is. But what I do want to say is after reading this and then probably should have reread some of the Reiber run, but I just didn't have time. I just focused on Peter Gross's story. I really liked Peter's story. I thought it was really good because I do remember in Reiber's run, Tim kind of got on my nerves, and so did Molly. And I think that's what this was supposed to be about. That it's about those teenage years where you're angry at everything. You're angry at the world. You're 14, 15 years old. You're going through a lot of changes. And poor Tim, he's given this task of being a magician, and he doesn't want it. He wants to reject it. He wants to be a normal person, but he keeps coming back no matter what. Whether it's a succubus or whether it's a horrible twist in his life, it always comes back to him. So it's like this responsibility that he's never wanted. And on top of that, he's also a teenage boy. And I tend to forget how I was back then. And books like this always remind me, oh yeah, I wasn't very likable too. I think most adults probably got annoyed by me. Because you think the whole world is against you when it literally is in this particular story. So if I take a step back and look at it like that, this is a really good portrayal of teenagers. And I'm not saying every teenager is like that. There are, everybody's different. But I do remember that age of just feeling alone and having the whole world be up against me. And, and then finding that significant other person that I thought, oh, hey, you're dealing through the same thing. So that's what the story of like Tim and Molly was at first. So when that gets ripped apart, Tim is thrown into this whole, I gotta find myself. And that's what Peter Gross's story is. It's all about Tim really finding the side of him that he never got to find because he was with Molly. That's really good. I dig that. I think I enjoy, and I've heard really bad things about Reiber. So I remember when I was reading Books of Magic in trade paperback format, there was a lot of talk of like how bad it ended. It ended with a whimper, his run, and I didn't see that. I kind of dug the way it ended. He wrapped up a lot of the things for his character arcs, and then he introduced a couple of new ideas that Peter Gross got to run with. And the ending of this was really awesome. I like the twist that it took. The Hellblazer story here, we'll get to the Hellblazer so you can look at Paul Lee's artwork. So this is the Hellblazer Books of Magic by Paul Lee. This is written by Paul Jenkins and from an original concept by Reiber. So this was okay. I'll be honest, I'm a big fan of Hellblazer. Not the biggest fan of Paul Jenkins' run on Hellblazer, but still a big fan of Hellblazer, the character of John Constantine. And this was okay. It was... I'm glad that they added it. I would have been upset if this was taken out. And then we get some extras in the back. So we get some goodbye notes from the creators when they left the books with their issues. This was an idea, I think, for the Books of Fairy Serpent Tooth. It was a series that unfortunately never came to be because the editor of, at the time, had passed away, of Vertigo, that was interested in carrying the story of Molly into another series. Here's some character design, and small character designs. The other thing you will see, too, through the pages of Peter Gross's story, especially early on, like issues 51 through 60, is the fact that he's able to put like 18 panels in a page. And that happened because they cut the page count of Vertigo comics from 24 to 22. So he still had a story to tell, so he decided to just cram a bunch of pictures into one page. And he does an amazing job. I like that he rolled with the punches. Here's a script right here. This is the original proposal for Books of Magic 57 by Peter Gross. And that's that. Let's look at the binding, because that's what's important here. So overall, that's a big eye for a book that's 1,488 pages. However, maybe it's because it's too big. I found this one to have more gutter loss than the first volume. And it's not a big deal because I think the spread pages are done rather well. The covers are there. You just have to kind of... Here, let me show you an example. Okay, so we're back at the very beginning, right? This is the way that it's laying over. I've properly opened the omnibus up because this is a big omnibus. I had to do it 3 or 4 times. I think I did it 3 times, holding up 4 fingers. Uncanny Omar count pretty one day. But this is the way that it lays over right now. So something you'll notice is this gutter loss right there. So you have to kind of hold it down to see, what issue you're on, if you're interested in that. This is, for example, number 33 from February of 1997. So There's a little bit more gutter loss than the very first volume. And the book's still wanting to close on me. I don't know. I think the first volume was better built for some reason than this particular volume. Not that this is horrible. You saw that eye. That's a big eye for a book with this many pages. You're going to need it. The very first volume just had a better bind built to it than this particular one. But really, that's all. Yeah, again, just have to hold it down a little bit to see what issue you're on. But as far as the spread pages, they all look good. Not that there's a ton of them in here. I'll just use this as an example of what a spread page looks like. This is the cover to Winter's Edge #2. So there is just a little bit of gutter loss right there. Not a whole lot, but just wanted to point out that there is a little bit for those people that care. But hey, look, we got page numbers and a table of contents. Come on, that's a done deal. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this book, don't forget to check out our sponsor, CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for brand new graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They pride themselves on packaging your books so they arrive safely in an excellent condition, as well as prompt and helpful service. Check out the bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. CGN is excited to announce that they are now taking pre-orders. They're making it easier for you to ensure that you don't miss out on the hottest releases. CGN is currently running a special promotion for your mentees. If you're a first-time customer, let them know that you were referred by Near Mint Condition at the checkout, and you'll receive a credit for free shipping on your next order. This promotion is valid for U.S. customers only. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount and quality shipping and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this big omnibus. Let me know in the comments down below if you're picking this up, what you think about the series, if you've read it, if this is your first time reading a lot of these Peter Gross stories, or if you're going completely blind and you were waiting for this volume to come out so you can go ahead and start reading volume 1. Again, this was the Uncanny Omar. If you have any more questions, please leave them down below. Don't forget to smash that like button, ring that bell for notifications to let you know when our videos are going live. We are on Spreadshop and on Patreon. Amazing ways to support the channel if you can do so. And more importantly, everyone, stay healthy, stay safe. Much love.